Welcome back. Well, 250,000 young people are working towards a Matric certificate outside of the full-time schooling system, but they are unaccounted for. This is according to Matrics on the Fringe, a research paper by Youth Capital and Stellenbosch University's research on social and economic policy. It gives insights into why these resilient young people need to be acknowledged and supported. Well, before the pandemic, it was estimated that 300,000 young people leave the schooling system each year, and mostly between grade 10 and 12, this without any formal qualification to show for their efforts. But to talk more on this, I'm joined now by Mario Meyer, policy analyst at Youth Capital. Mr. Meyer, thank you so much for your time. And that's the first question that I'd like to ask. How have we come to a point where the country cannot account for these people? Why are they not accounted for?
Good morning. To answer the question, I think big issue within the schooling system, and particularly with second chance opportunities, is tracking. So tracking individual learners over time. And the reason it's so important is that in the education system in South Africa, certification really matters. And as you mentioned, many young people drop out of school without getting a Matric certificate. And the research shows that about 50% of young people who start school leave without a Matric certificate. And this matters because in South Africa, if you have a Matric certificate, which is the only certificate you get from the schooling system, having one means that you have greater access to further education and training opportunities, as well as makes you more likely to be in sustainable employment than those without a Matric certificate.
And that was leading to my next question. What are some of the consequences of not accounting for these young people? What does it do to our country, to these young people, but also what does it say about our system?
I think it means that we're losing out on a lot of productive potential of a lot of young people. So a lot of young people are left out of the system. I think there are over 8.8 million young people currently not in employment, education, or training in South Africa. And so it's really important that we provide these young people with an opportunity to get back on track. And that's what the Second Chance Matric program is meant to do, provide a second chance pathway for those young people who were not successful at their first attempt at schooling for whatever reason.
Just in terms of support, how do you think we can also better support, these young people? I know that this research paper, Matrics on the Fringe, highlights some of the insights of, these young people needing that acknowledgement and support. How do you think we can do that?
As you've mentioned, we're at Youth Capital are launching a report today, Matrics on the Fringe, which is a review of the Second Chance Matric program. And it's a review that's been done by the Stellenbosch University and led by Martin Gustafsson, who works as an advisor to the VBE. And the research brief finds that the key support that young people need who are navigating through the Second Chance Matric program is, as we mentioned, they need to be better tracked, but also they need support in navigating information in the system. So when to register, what documents are needed to register, what subjects to register for, where to get preparation material. So navigating that information, it's very difficult to do, especially if you're doing it on your own. And then also supporting preparing for those second chance examinations, finding the material, preparing, going through them. The support is needed for that. It's far more difficult when you're doing it without the support of an NGO or private institution.
Right.
And we're struggling with access to things like data. So tracking and better support with finding and navigating through information, as well as preparing for these exams themselves.
I think just to highlight the importance of Matric certificate and to get clarity from you according to your work and the research that you do, are you also saying that a Matric certificate is important in this country, just also in terms of navigating opportunities, whether it's to further your studies, to gain employment, whether it's opportunities such as learnerships, and in instances where you are matriculous, meaning that you do not have that certificate, those chances in exposing yourself to those opportunities might be minimized?
It is far more difficult, and I think there's plenty of data that shows that. The recent NEDS-CRAM Waves 3 data found that post-lockdown, those who had at least a Matric certificate were more likely to be in employment post-lockdown than those who didn't have a Matric certificate. So Matric matters because it signals for employers the competencies and skills of a young person, and therefore gives them a greater chance of accessing sustainable employment. And it also matters for further education and training, at least for formal further education and training. Most institutions require at least a Matric to get access. And even with TVET colleges, which should require a minimum of grade 9, many look at Matric as the minimum requirement. So Matric really matters for opening doors of opportunity for young people. And at Youth Capital, saying education really matters, and a big challenge in the education system is getting young people certified. So we need to provide opportunities for those young people who drop out the first time around to be able to get certified.
All right. Well, thank you so much for shedding light on this issue, Mario Meyer, a Youth Capital policy analyst. But we move on.